Welcome back, everyone, to the Second Shot All-American podcast. I am your host today, Phil, and with me, as always, is my cohort, Tom Witterstatter. Tom, how are you today?
Doing good, Phil. Death, taxes, and afternoon and evening storms in June. We're where we belong.
That's a very fair assessment. And we're recording this the day after, but I want to wish my wife a very happy fourth wedding anniversary.
Wow, it's a good
Yeah,
touch. Well
it's been
done.
a fast 4 years with two kids, two houses, numerous cars. But today's episode, it's a fun one for us simply because it's so appropriate that we get to have him on right before our nation's golf open coming up here. But before we get to that, Tom, I have your random golf fact of the day, if you would indulge me, from the Book of Gary. The Golf Reaches the Seven Hills.
Sure.
With where our guest is from today, I felt it appropriate to talk about a dead golf course that was from his town of origin. I want to talk about Mariemont Golf Club. It was in existence from 1928 to 1937. Right now in the Mariemont area, you have Hyde Park Golf and Country Club. You have Reeves Golf Course, which is just south and west of Mariemont, and you have the Little Miami Golf Center, which I think is just on the east side of Mariemont. But Mariemont used to have its own 9-hole golf course right along the Little Miami River. So our friend Gary wrote a little bit of a tidbit about the golf course. In 1928, the Mariemont Company decided to add a golf course to their planned community, locating a site by the Little Miami River and under the leadership of Gregory T. Desjardins. Mariemont Golf Club built a community course but allowed non-residents to play for an annual fee of $20. Jack Crook was the first professional, but several others served, including Archie Simpson Sr. and Otis Bishoprick. The Little Miami River floods of 1936 and 1937 washed away most of the course and clubhouse, and the operation closed in 1937. For its brief time in operation, Mariemont Golf Club had a great rivalry with Terrace Park Golf Club. And if you do have a copy of Gary's book, there are several pictures of where the golf course was indicated to be, and a couple photos of the flooded golf club and the flooded golf clubhouse. So if you ever are interested of where it is, it looks to be in the area of the South 80 Community Gardens and the Mariemont Gardens Park south of Route 50 in Mariemont. So there's your random golf fact of the day.
I like it. That's not one I remember from. I mean, the Ghost Courses chapter is one of my favorite chapters. I don't recall. That one. So
Yeah,
thanks,
Gary
Phil.
needs to redo it so we can put Shawnee Lookout in there. And
there's-
Weatherwax.
and Weatherwax and
R.I.P. the wax.
yeah,
Oh.
no kidding.
Well,
Yeah,
all of us have some post-traumatic stress disorder from
yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest today. He is a Mariemont High School graduate in 2015. He went to the Ohio State University and played golf there from 2015 to 2019. Some of his accolades: he shot 59 on Pinehurst No.1 in the North and South Junior Am, hence the company he now runs. He qualified for the 2014 and 2018 U.S. Opens. Those were at pretty solid courses, Pinehurst No.2 and Shinnecock, which is very appropriate this year. He was the 2013 Division II Ohio High School Athletic Association state runner-up, 2014 AJGA All-American. He's a 3-time GCAA All-Midwest Region selection, second team All-Big Ten twice, 2017 Big Ten Championships runner-up, 2018 Met Amateur Champion, 2018 GCGA Player of the Year, 2025 the reigning Ohio Open champion, and he is the owner and teacher at Loft 59. So please welcome to the program Will Grimmer. Will, thank you for being here with us.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's a lot of fun. Let's
Hopefully
do
we
it.
didn't. Hopefully we didn't overdo it on that intro. The Tom told me to keep it quick, and I was like, well, I got to throw some stuff in there. So
Pretty good.
yeah, not too bad.
When I started looking back at that, I'm like, all right, maybe I'm not too bad after all.
If you want lessons, go ahead and stop over to see Will. Will, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background in the game of golf and kind of how your path to getting to the success that you have.
Yeah, yeah. No, I grew up in Cincinnati. My parents, both play and love the game. My dad introduced it to me at a young age. Never forced it at me, just made it available, and then I took it and ran. Which I always remind that to people because I do think that there's a huge difference and importance of being encouraged into the game and being forced into the game, and I think that people that have accessibility to the game but aren't ever forced or dragged out to play, those are the people that fall in love with it the most. And I'm a first example of that. From the age of 4, I was begging to go out and play 18 holes, and I remind people I'm a little bit of a strange bird. I used to watch Arnold Palmer documentaries on VHS when I was like 4 or 5, 6 years old. Jack Nicklaus. I was obsessed with everything. I used to wear a red shirt on Sundays watching Tiger, in the living room. And so I've just ever since I was old enough to play the game and old enough to walk, I wanted to play professional golf. I wanted to play on the PGA Tour. And I grew up playing GCGA events and then getting to the US juniors and junior PGAs and playing stuff like the North and South and shooting the 59, and then ultimately getting to US AMs and US Opens, and going to Ohio State and having a decorated amateur career and getting to play some of the top AM events in the world. And now here I am for the last 7 years, been playing pro golf, and I've been playing on, I've had some stats on the Corn Ferry Tour. I've had some stats on PGA Tour Canada, done a lot of mini tour events and Monday qualifiers and a little bit of everything in between, and also teaching. So my life has been consumed with golf, and I've literally from square one all the way to now, it's just been a constant growth and evolution in the game. It's been a lot of fun.
Will, you said VHS there. A lot of the kids on the junior tour nowadays may not even know what that is.
They might not even know what a DVD player is.
Yeah.
Being born in 97 is a really, really, really interesting time, in my opinion, when you really think about it, because like I'm 29 years old, and like I've had an iPhone for, 15 years. At the same time, I also had a VHS watching Toy Story as a child. It's such a small, like, you're 10 years older than me. You had a significant period of time with old tech and new tech. We're in that really weird like few years where it went VHS, DVD, Blu-ray to like then the digital of like Netflix and everything. But like we didn't have Instagram when I was a freshman in high school. It was like sophomore, junior year. So it was a really weird, like everything was getting going in the tech space, and just like the way it's kind of grown. It is kind of funny thinking about it from that perspective. But yeah.
It
Yeah,
is. It is.
Tom and I were excited to go to the computer lab in junior and high
Yeah,
school. So
absolutely.
I, I
Absolutely.
I think those are more workshopping areas now.
Yeah, no kidding. Will, when did you realize that you were good? I mean, at what point during your junior days was it, did you realize like I could be something at this?
Well, there were levels to it. I think like, you know, there was a period where I was winning a lot of things locally. Like I was doing really well in Cincinnati, where I was kind of like I started realizing like, okay, like I'm one of the top players around here, for sure. But I I didn't necessarily know like, how I remember like towards like maybe kind of middle school and high school being like I could play college golf, but it was kind of like I didn't know to what level. I didn't know if that was going to be like I get to pick and choose where I want to go, if that's going to be like I could be a walk on someplace. But ironically, I know we've already brought up the 59, but the 59, the summer of 2013, I had a stretch of about 3 weeks that just kind of went from here to here. I mean, I'll never forget. It was the first week out of school, and I would just finish sophomore year of high school, so it was June of like basically this. It would have been like June of this week, about 13 years ago, and I played the US Junior Qualifier at Western Hills, won that, shot 67-71. I went to Weatherwax, RIP Weatherwax, and shot 66-68, won the junior PGA qualifier. So it was good to get to go play both those, which those are, obviously probably the top two major junior tournaments in the country. And that was going to be my first appearance at both of those. And then the next day or 2 days later, I won the Ohio Junior at Oasis. And unfortunately got rain shortened to 18 holes, but I shot 66. So I had a stretch. I think I was 20 under par for 5 rounds. And that was my lowest 4 or 5 round stretch of golf, period, to that point in tournament play. And I'll never forget playing my home course, McAtee. I was walking off 18. I think I shot maybe like a 68 or 67. I was talking to my dad, and I go, Dad, shooting a lot of rounds in the 60s when we're playing for fun, but I'm not doing it in tournaments. I'm like, how do I do it? And he goes, just go do it. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, there's nothing more to it. He's like, stop making it a big deal and just go do it. Like, if you're shooting it here, you can go shoot it there. And I was like, it was so simple, yet it sparked a fire in me. Like, I gotta go play with that kick butt mentality that I play with when I'm playing with my buddies when we're just having fun, or even in high school. So it was like, okay, it's time to go take that kick butt in Cincinnati and take it outside the state. And that's when, I was tiny. I was 120 something pounds, but I loved, and I mean, I loved playing with that edge of, like, especially locally, knowing that I could intimidate so many people despite being undersized, just because I started playing with that edge and with that confidence. And again, it wasn't arrogance. It wasn't mean, but it was just like, I knew I was the best putter. I knew I had a great short game, and I just loved just kind of ascending in the game and putting myself in those situations.
And I mean this wholeheartedly. Your success as a 16, 17-year-old is kind of the reason why we started seeing some of the changes in the regulations in Ohio high school golf tournament play, because it used to be, like I grew up playing with Craig Osterbrock, who was a tremendous golfer at Wittenberg. But he played in several, like, USAM qualifiers, and he played in some junior tournaments. And then if he chose to play in those, he couldn't play high school golf for a certain amount of times. I don't know if it was a certain amount of matches
My
or
senior
weeks.
year, I went and played the junior players down at TPC Sawgrass, which is, again, probably the biggest AJJ invitational. And, you're going to play all 3 days on stadium. You get caddies. And I just remember I had to tell my team, I was like, listen, like, I love you guys, but I was like, I can't pass up and I was in the USAM that year. So I was like, I went to play Atlanta Athletic Club, and then the next week I went and played Sawgrass, and it was like, I loved my first 3 years of high school golf, but, Reeves, Sharon Woods, or Atlanta Athletic Club, TPC Sawgrass. Yeah, I'm gonna go take the latter. And so I had to. I was allowed to. I got up to 2, but I had to delay the start. So I couldn't play like CHL Preview. I couldn't play Madeira or Indian Hill Invitational. I had to delay it, and so then I was like, I got invited to the USGA state team my senior year, and so it was a bummer because D2, D1 every year used to be at Scarlet. D2, you'd rotate between North Star and Scarlet. So my junior year, I lost by 1 at North Star. And I had an opportunity to, after just losing by 1, right? I already won the Ohio Junior. I was like, okay, it was obviously any boy's dream. If you grew up in the state of Ohio, you want to win a state championship because it's a school pride thing. You want the banner hung in your high school gymnasium. You want that legacy forever. And so there was a part of me that's like, man, let's go get our revenge for state. And then there was a part of me that's like, no, the OHSCA, with all due respect, was a horribly run organization at the time. And I was like, it was an opportunity for me to kind of stick it to them. And it's like, oh, you really want me to play? And so I'll never forget, I eagled the last hole of sectionals, won the sectionals at Sharon, shot like 68 or something, and go up, got my plaque, and I said, I will respectfully be declining my spot at the district tournament because I told the team if the team made it through, I was going to play with them the whole way. But once they didn't, I respectfully declined and went and played the state team championship. And there was no doubt, there was a part of me that was really bummed, but I stayed on it even into my dad and I into my freshman and sophomore year of college. And, we had some meetings with them, and I'm really proud of the fact that I advocated for that, not entirely for myself, but because I felt like it's wrong for players to not get opportunities to play competitive golf, because depending on where you sit, where your high school team is, how good your schedule is, some kids have a lot of great opportunities to play in those months, and other kids might need to go play GCGA fall event, because what if they're the sixth man on their team and they're not in sectionals or districts? And so it's just not fair um, to rob kids of opportunities to go compete and get better. Uh, we're already handcuffed with a 6-month golf season in Cincinnati, so when the weather's nice, kids should be going and teeing up and getting better. And so I'm really proud of the fact that that rule is now since gotten better, and it excites me to know that, you know, generations of juniors, especially guys that I'm now coaching, have the opportunities that maybe I didn't during the high school season.
Absolutely. Um, Now we discussed the 59. I don't think we can skip over that any further. I do want to talk about that. If I have this correct, it's the only 59 in competition at Pinehurst in their history, which they have a obvious, very deep history. It's very, I'm sure it's such an honor. Can you talk a little bit about that round and kind of what it means to shoot that score at a course like that?
Yeah, no, it was a special day, July 10th, 2013. And, you know, I'll remember that day forever because so my mom was with me for that trip. And my dad, you know, my parents both went to a lot of tournaments, but there's no doubt my dad probably was at just a few more than me and my mom. But, you know, my mom made a point, you know, we had been to Pinehurst, you know, for years with, you know, you dating back to US Kids Day. So, you know, we had been there a number of times before, and my mom just loves the area, you know, loves shopping in Southern Pines, loves just the resort, loves everything. And so it's like, hey, I'll go with you to Pinehurst. And I was like, hey, this would be great, you know, little mother son trip. And so we're down there, and you know, the North and South Junior at the time was you played 3 courses, and they still do, but they changed the rotation. But back then we played course number 6, then course number 1, then course number 5. So you get one practice round. So I played my practice round number 6 because that's the hardest of the 3 courses and probably the best of them as well. And so played over there, shoot a 74. I think 63 was leading Will Blaylock to end up winning the tournament. So I'm 11 back, and we're sitting in the hotel that night, and I'm just like, man, I'm like, Mom, I gotta go shoot 64 lower tomorrow to get back in. It's like, don't put a number in your head, like just, you know, go play. And okay. But I'm like, we weren't allowed, we only got one practice round. So we drove the course the night before. And I'm driving it. I'm like, okay, this looks gettable, but there's no doubt there are some, you know, tricky tee shots. Like it looks like there's some dog legs where you gotta kind of, but I'm like, you know, I've always been very straight back then. I was probably even straighter just on the fact that I didn't hit the ball very far. And so I'm like, if I can kind of be aggressive and give myself a lot of sand wedges and gap wedges in, like I can really chew this place up if I get the putter hot. Well, we got the putter hot. So go out the next morning and start on 10, and I par 10. Now keep in mind this is a very interesting caveat. So Pinehurst No.1 was the first course to make the switch to Chamber Bermuda. Now every course down there is Bermuda, but at the time Pinehurst was a long historic bent grass facility for the greens and then Bermuda fairways. So Pinehurst in June, with it being bent, this is why they made the switch to Bermuda. They couldn't get them very fast. They had to keep them between like 8 and 9 on stimp. So I'm used to very slow greens on number 6 from the day before. All of a sudden, I get out there and I'm like, these aren't bent grass greens. The very first hole. Well, I hit the first putt like 6 feet by. I make the comebacker. So like we just barely escape a par. But I'm like on the fly, kind of having to adjust to like greens I have not hit even a single warm-up putt on. And we go to 11, and I'm 30 feet short of the hole. And same deal, I still have not adjusted to the pace. If this putt doesn't hit the hole, it is going 10 feet by, maybe even off the back of the green. It hits the back of the cup, pops up, drops in the hole, and I'm just like, okay, this is, you know, we're off to a good start. But I parred the next 3 holes. I'm 1 under through 5. No one in their right mind is thinking 59. And then the fun began because I made a bogey somewhere in my last 13 holes, and I still proceeded to play the last 13 holes 10 under par. So here we go. Go to 15, driver wedge, make a birdie. Go to 16, driver 6-iron, right fringe, make about 15-footer with probably like 5-6 balls of break. Go to 17, driver sand wedge, 1 hop, dunk it. Go to 18, reachable par 5, knock it on a 2-putt birdie. Now, at the time, I'm playing with now one of my really, really, really good friends, David Coker, who we had just met maybe the summer before. It was our first round we ever played together. And David, 2-time Corn Ferry Tour winner, has Corn Ferry Tour status, like very decorated player, super successful. And so it's fine that we're, now in touch all these years. But David's kind of been not saying much to me all day at the time. And he's keeping my card, and he looks at the front and he goes, "Dang, Will, it's like, shot 600 on the front." He goes, "Front nine's a par 34. It's like, I mean, you just got to shoot like 500 on the front, and you shoot 59. And then I go to 1 and I make bogey. I leak a 7-iron out short right. I flub the chip, 10-footer. I push it, and like he feels terrible. Like he's like, oh my God. Like it's like the pitcher that jinxed a no-hitter. And it's like, so now he's shut up. Like the rest of like Conrad and David, they're not talking to me. But then we just get on a heater again. I birdie 2, I birdie 3, 4 is par 5. I get the wrong distance. I laser a tree 30 yards behind the green and not the flag. So I actually go over the green in 2, and I don't get up and down. So easy hole on the golf course, and I make par. Now I go to 185 par 3 and hole 5. Yes. And I hit about 35 feet behind the flag, cash that. Go to 6, pull the 9-iron 40 feet left of the hole, cash that. Go to 7, stripe a 6. Now there's buzz circulating around the course. Now we've got UNC coach, we got Virginia Tech coach, we got UVA coach, we got Wake Forest, Haas, not Jay, but not Bill, but anyway, bottom line, Coach Haas. So there's probably 10 coaches around the tee, and now like I know I need 2 birdies in my last 3 holes to get this done, and I just step up and hit the best swing of the day, the 6-iron 10 feet right behind the flag. I pour that in for birdie. And now it's like, holy smokes, like, oh man, like we need 1 more birdie. Like let's do this thing. And go to 8, hit a perfect drive, middle of the fairway, blind second shot coming up the hill, can barely see the top of the flag. And my mom's sitting up to the right. And I mean, this is coming out perfect. Just a little gap wedge, flighted in there. It's right over the flag. I think I'm like 3-4 feet. I like kind of very anxiously look up at my mom, like kind of for a signal. And she kind of gives it the over. And I'm like, no, I get up there, and I guess I just was so juiced up on adrenaline that it's over the back of the green, and I chip it down, get a little bit excited, a little bit of right hand in the chip, goes about 8 feet by, and this putt should not have gone in the hole. It was pushed clear as day. I moved on it, and it spent more than 360 degrees and went all the way around and fell back in the front of the cup, and it was just like, okay, we have a chance. So now we go to 9. 140 downhill par 3. This is for all the marbles. The other guys have made birdie, so I'm last to hit, despite playing the best of the day. And they both stuff it. One hits it to like 8 feet. The other one hits it to like a foot. I pull it a little bit, and it spins back. So I'm like 25 feet below the hole. They haven't said a word to me in like 5 holes. And all of a sudden, David goes, "Graham, I bet you wish you had these putts right now, don't you?" And that was just a funny little like, like just to kind of break the ice. And it caused like talking to them. I was almost getting so like anxious about it that it kind of just like kind of calmed me back down to the moment. It got us to have a little bit of a laugh. They both finished out to clear the air for me. And so, I take my time. It's a 25-footer. It's probably just like left side of the hole, maybe just inside left edge. And all I remember thinking at the time was just, well, I don't know if you're ever going to have another putt to shoot a 59 in competition. So I'm okay if this doesn't go in. I'm not okay if this is left short. So just get it to the hole, give it a chance. Even if you shoot 60, this is still your greatest round you've ever played. Like, nothing to lose here. And I hit this thing, and it was like there was just a magnet on the ball. It was like, I mean, when you think about the 25, the 40-footer, the 30-foot, everything else going in, it's like it kind of felt inevitable. And it's like it's a really hard feeling because it's very, very seldom that I get that way all like with that many putts. I mean, I think I had 22 putts on the day. But it was just like it was just never. It didn't matter what type of stroke was put on it. Like that ball was going to find a way to go in. And it was about 10 feet out, and I started raising the putter almost like Nicholas, 86-esque, and just walked it in, gave it a point and a fist pump, and it was really cool. I mean, what was cool about it too is that the 2 guys I played with were probably more excited than I was. I mean, they lifted me up, they carried me off on their shoulders off the green. They were screaming out to everybody around. This kid shot a 59. We go into clubhouse, having lunch. I wasn't even talking about it, and they were telling everybody, and it was just, from that moment forward, my golf life forever changed. I didn't realize the significance of that moment at the time, but lot 59, like I was kid 59. Like it gave me an identity. It gave me something that made me stand out to other top juniors in the game. And I still get people probably at least, I'd say probably 20 times a year that ask me about the 59. And like, that's really cool. When I meet people that know about it, it is fun to share those stories. So it's super special.
I think we're going to have to take a clip and use that for our Instagram introduction there, Tom. I mean, how many people who shot 59 for crying out loud? So it sounds like that probably was a catalyst in catapulting your career. You choose Ohio State, but there had to be other colleges interested. Tell us about the process of you being recruited, some of the other schools, and why you chose Ohio State.
Yeah. No, I mean, I looked at a lot of schools, had a lot of great opportunities. My final two were UNC and Ohio State. Looked at Illinois, Virginia Tech, Auburn, Wake Forest. Part of the process depends on, perfect example, right? So, Cameron Young, I think some people may have heard of him. He was in my recruiting class, and he was being recruited by UNC and Wake Forest, and his decision affected how much scholarship money that I was going to be offered. My decision to go to Ohio State influenced how much scholarship money would have gone to like one of my teammates. So there was a ripple effect. I was waiting to commit based off of what I heard once Cam committed. Once Cam committed to a school, that was going to kind of free up where I could go because we were looking at a lot of the same schools. So there's little things like that obviously go into play. Obviously I was pre NIL era, so no one was coming to me about money in the pocket. It was just about scholarship to go to the school. Yeah, and then also it came down to, okay, where do I see myself every day? One of the criteria that I kind of used that I thought my dad was really smart for kind of helping me see was, if you remove something, do you still want to go there? So perfect example, if you break your leg and you can't play golf, okay, like, would you love Ohio State? If a coach left, which they did, right? I mean, I was recruited by Donnie, and then Jay Mosley was my coach in college. So if a coach leaves, do you still want to be there, right? If a teammate, like that you really want to play with, and then they transfer, okay, like, how do all these things factor in? And if you remove one area of it, are you happy there? And Ohio State was just a clear-cut choice, especially once they built the indoor facility. I mean, we probably have top 3 facilities in the country. Again, when you compare everything, right? So short game area, our back of the range, our hitting bays, our indoor facility, our gym, our training facilities, and our weight room, I mean, we got to train at the Woody Hayes. I mean, I was in there, my junior year, Joe Burrows is down there. No one knows who he is yet. And he's down at the other end of the field working with all the, Dwayne Haskins and Burrow and all those guys that weren't like starters yet, because JT Barrett was a starter at the time. And then you had the golf team on the other half. We were in there at 6 a.m., 3 days a week, but like, to be like, thinking about the fact that we were training in a building where, 40 something NFL draft picks have been training for like during that time, like crazy, right? So just, being surrounded with not just a great golf program, but a great athletic department. Gene Smith is our athletic director. I mean, he knew my first and last name, even as a freshman. Like, when I got a call from him when Donnie left, and Archie Griffin called me to make sure I wasn't leaving. Like, that's an athletic department that cares. They invest more into their student athletes, probably post grad than they do undergrad, right? Because they want to make sure that they're set up for success. I could go call anybody up there right now and have a conversation. If I was, transitioning out of pro golf and I didn't want to teach and I wanted to do something else, like, I could get the help that I needed. And so, like, those relationships beyond, and I felt that as a recruit, that like, okay, this is a special place beyond just the golf team. And I just loved it. Like, I just loved Scarlett. I loved campus. I loved everything. And so it was a clear cut choice. And the schedule we played. Our first tournament was at Pebble Beach. We played Bandon. We played Colonial. We played down in Florida. We played Muirfield and Inverness. Like, we played everywhere. And to me, that was important because some of these SEC schools, they would just play in the Southeast. And on the PGA Tour and pro golf, you don't do that. And I felt like you got to get out of your climate. You have to learn to play on different grasses. You got to learn to play in different conditions. So there were a multitude of factors, but it became pretty apparent for me that Ohio State is the only place I could go.
Sure. Now, I don't want to get carried away here. I want to talk about both the local and the U.S. Opens you've played in, especially because we got U.S. Open week upcoming. But could you go into a little bit further about your 2018 Met win and obviously kind of maybe what that meant to you to win a tournament that's so big here in the city, our biggest tournament, amateur tournament, I would say for sure. Kind of talk about that journey and that win.
Well, it's funny because it's directly tied to Shinnecock because that was a week and a half after Shinnecock. And the previous few years, I had gotten into, the Sunny Hannah and the Northeast, and I was playing all those events in the North and South. And so I, obviously was taking advantage of getting into the biggest AM events that I possibly could. And while, the Met, I always wanted to play, and it was always kind of a goal of mine as a junior to win that one day. But then, you start looking at a calendar, you start going, okay, there's a finite number of weeks in a summer, and there's only so many events, and picking and choosing became increasingly difficult, mainly because I was trying to get my amateur ranking, as high as I possibly could, right? And so there was a little bit of that dilemma, and there was a little bit of a kind of a sourness that, like, man, I might never get to play or get to win this. And when I played the U.S. Open, it was kind of like, okay, well, that was the same week as Sunny Hannah. I was exhausted from playing, the full 72 holes and making the cut up there. So it was like, okay, I'm not gonna go even do Northeast. And all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, like that, the Mets the next week and it's back home, so I get to sleep in my own bed. It's like, why not just go do that? And it was like, let's try to go put the name on the trophy. And so, that was really, really fun because on the heels of the Open and getting all that attention and beating the names that I did and making the cut and beating Tiger and all that good stuff, it was like, okay, to get to come back. And now, like, I hate to say it, but it was almost kind of like, it was kind of a no-win situation because like, if I win, it was almost a little bit of like, well, Will should win. And if I lose, it was kind of like, dude, how did you just go to Shinnecock and, beat, 14 or 15 of the top, 30 players in the world. And then you just lost the Cincinnati Met. Right. So I really, it was fun to like kind of have that internal pressure that I put on myself, which really, it was all internal. It's not really external, but I had that feeling of like, you got to back this up. Like if you're going to come play this tournament, you got to come win it. And it was fun to then, I mean, to be quite candid, as well as I played at Shinnecock, I mean, the week of the Met, I went 93 consecutive holes without a bogey. Like it was the best golf I've played maybe my entire life in match play. I didn't make a bogey for 93 consecutive holes. 93. That was fun. And then to beat Austin on his home golf course in the finals, we had 150, 200 people there. And again, Austin's one of my best friends. Like we're great friends. And I know that ultimately if he had won that day, he would say the same thing because it's like, you want to beat a great player in the final. Like you remember those matches. So to not only win the Met, but then win it against another great player like Austin, who also was playing the Met that year, was just super special. And it was an unbelievable match. I mean, it was unbelievable. We probably shot 66, 67 or 65, 66. It was something insane. I had to make an 8-footer on the last hole to win one up. Like it was special. So it was really, really cool. And, I take pride in the fact that, I'll forever be, Tony Bloom, who I've actually gotten to play golf with Tony Bloom. Not many people my age have gotten to do that, but I got to play with him when I was like 8, 9, 10. He used to come out and play at back at Tiwa with my dad and I, and he would just ride around. Sometimes he wouldn't even play a full night. He would just sit in that car with a little hat down and look at me, and he's like, "You keep swinging, bud." And he's a huge inspiration for me. People like him that were accomplished players that I knew the history of. They were huge inspiration for me getting into the game and wanting to become a better player. And so it's really, really, it's to this day, it's one of my most proud accomplishments is winning the Met. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
So going back to the U.S. Opens now, and the 2026 U.S. Open is at Shinnecock. So it was great to have you on for this a week before.
Absolutely.
You played Pinehurst No.2, and I think you shot like 77, 80 in that area.
That's exactly, yep. 77, 80.
And you go to Shinnecock. Those are in my opinion, two of the most storied U.S. Open venues ever.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a different feel between the two, for one? And two, did one course fit your eye better? I know you shot better at Shinnecock, obviously, but it didn't
Yeah,
necessarily have to fit your
I
eye
mean,
better.
I love Pinehurst. Like, I love it. I literally was just there a few weeks ago, played with my wife. We played number 2. Like, Pinehurst is one of my favorite and you can make a case that actually I like Pinehurst as a place to just go play and visit more than Shinnecock. But from a just my game and how it suits me, for one, Shinnecock still is probably my favorite course I've ever played, just because growing up in the Midwest, like, it's New York, it's old school golf, right? I mean, it's an old school country club, but it's just also being on, I guess technically, I think they actually were Poa annua greens, but like Poa, Bent, like, not Bermuda, like, it just it's just a stunning property. I mean, you get up on like 15 tee, you're looking out over the water. I mean, you could see into the city from way out in the distance. Like, it's breathtaking out there. I mean, you're in the Hamptons. But I felt very comfortable on the greens from day one. I remember Monday putting around, and I, like, my buddy Michael Mislick caddied for me back in both those US Opens, and we grew up playing together at McAtee, when I was like, these greens remind me a lot of back. Like, there's a lot of similarities in just the feel, like the texture of the greens themselves, like the grass on them, but then the slopes and the contours as well. And I felt very, very comfortable right out of the gate. But because of 2014, 2014, I played with Justin Rose. In practice, I played with Kenny Perry. I played with Brooks Koepka and Ricky Fowler. Like, I was the kid in the candy store just soaking it all in. Like, I just want to meet the cool people. And, it was like, I was just there to have a good time. 2020 or 2018, I was like, listen, like, I was 21. I was like, I'm going to my senior year of college. Like, I was a, solid collegiate player, doing very well in amateur golf. And I was like, no, like, I'm here to compete. Like, I'm here to prove I belong. And I took that approach. I played one of my practice rounds by myself. I was just like, you would have looked out there and thought that I was just a seasoned tour vet. Like, the way we approached it, there was no goo goo gaga. It's time to prepare. It's time to compete. And we're about to go kind of shock the world kind of mentality. And I'll never forget, I teed off Thursday afternoon, and we're sitting, a friend of ours, a friend of a friend. We were in this guest house up in the Hamptons. We're just sitting up in the loft. We're watching on our iPad, and we're watching Spieth make a triple. We're watching, Bubba make a double. We're just watching carnage, and we're just cracking up. And all of a sudden, my dad's like, you might not want to laugh too much. Like, you're about to go play that in about 5 hours. And I'm like, Dad, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm like, I'm hit the ball so well. I hit the ball so straight. I was like, I think I'm like, these guys are used to shooting 20 under par and they play every week on the PGA Tour. I said, I'm mentally prepared for this. I was like, I think if I just go play my game, I was like, I think I can go hold my own out here. Well, I think I hit 13 out of 14 fairways on Friday, and I think I hit 11 or 12 on Thursday. So that Shinnecock rough that everyone was talking about, I didn't know it existed, because the fairway I missed on Friday, I was in a fairway bunker. So I didn't hit a shot out of rough on an approach shot the entire day. So, that's what put me in position to shoot 73, 72. I was T19 going into the week, T23 going into the weekend, T19 after Thursday. And then I was top 10 in the field in strokes gained putting, I think, for the entire week. So that was my recipe. I made everything inside of 10 feet. I didn't 3-putt. I think I had maybe like 2 3-putts on the week, and I hit a lot of fairways. And I accepted, probably more so than the tour players, just because I was so grateful for the opportunity to be there. And I'm not saying that they weren't, but I get it. I've been a pro now for 7 years. You get beaten down by the game a little bit. I was so, like, fired up for the opportunity to play in front of the fans and the New York crowd and just everything, that it was like, so what if I'm, hitting from a bunker 50 yards away? Like, I'm going to get up and down. So what if, these pins are outrageous? I'm going to 2-putt it, like, so I just had that mentality, and I had that grit all week, and, it paid off. So it was a fun week.
You got me all fired up to watch this week at this point now.
It's the hardest golf course in the United States.
And
my argument for it, when people say, well, you think it's harder than Oakmont? I said, well, the last 3 US Opens at Oakmont have all had under par scores. Shinnecock, to my recollection, just have one under par score in the history of there. Like 95, 2004, and 2018 were all over par. So I think it's the hardest course in America.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of content.
brutal.
A lot of content been going out recently, and it looks it just looks.
It's gonna be harder.
I know
this year.
they widen the fairways, I think, a little bit this time around, but
Yeah,
I
but
don't
then
know
they
how much
also
of a
added
difference
like
that'll make.
400 yards of length. I mean, it's gonna be brutal.
Yeah,
It's the greens though. Like 11. Like it does not matter. 10 and 11. Like you could be 100 yards in the middle of the fairway and you're still going to watch half the field make some bogeys because it's like you could spin a ball off the front on 10 and it'd be like 3 at McAtee on steroids. You know, it's just going to go 50 yards, 60 yards, 70 yards down a hill. 11. I mean, I watched Koepka final round make one of the greatest, bogey saves ever. Like you barely hit off the back of the green. It goes 40, 50 yards over the green. I mean, it's like that all over the course. I mean, when Phil hit the moving ball, people don't realize, like, I putted it into the bunker. I had the same putt that Phil did. I putted it off the green into the bunker. And then rather than whining about it, I got up and down for 5. So take that, Phil Mickelson.
Tough week for Phil Mickelson, but we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, you can say take that, Phil Mickelson, in several different ways.
We don't need. All right, moving on.
Quick little note there.
Moving on.
Quick little note on the 2004 Open. That was that Sunday, I think, Retief Goosen's putter was unconscious. He ended up shooting 4 under par for the tournament.
Okay, I stand corrected.
That's
I know 2018 was
disgusting.
1 over.
Yeah.
And then what was 95? Was 95? I know Corey
even
Pavin
par.
won.
I think that was Corey Pavin,
okay.
90 even par.
But he made birdie on 18 to shoot even.
Yes, he did. With those disgusting Cleveland Tour action, whatever irons those were.
Well, my last question for you, I know we gotta wrap it up here soon, and we're gonna have to have you on for part 2 because there's just so much more I want to ask. But what advice would you have for juniors, especially on like the 1905 Junior Tour might be listening? What kind of advice would you have for them that maybe they aspired to be like you in some way, whether that's play Division I college golf, give lessons, be a pro in that way? What kind of advice would you have for them?
Just chase your dreams, really, and just fall in love with the game first and foremost, and just go play a lot of golf. And honestly, like, yes, you gotta practice, you gotta learn how. But I work with a lot of juniors, and yes, I work on the course management side of things, and just like the approach to the game. And I really I revel in that. I love that. But I love seeing juniors that love the game. And here's the thing: I will take a kid with a mediocre swing, but just loves it, over a kid that's got all the talent in the world, but you can tell he just hates it out there. And so it's like, learn to fall in love with the game. Learn to fall in love, honestly, with the history of the game. Because if you appreciate the history of the game, I think you enjoy it more. For me, I read so many golf books as a kid. I read so many golf architecture books as a kid. I studied holes. I studied players. I knew what Nicklaus did. Like, in order for an achievement to mean something, you have to know who did it before you. If you don't, like, otherwise, it's just a score. It's just like, in order for a record to be broken, well, you have to know who had the record, and you have to. So, like, go study up on the history of Cincinnati golf. Go read about great players like Jim Stahl. Go read about Robert Gerwin. Go read about Tony Bloom, because those guys were also 10 and 11 and 12-year-old boys who loved the game. And it's like, when I got to play in the Pro-Am matches back in the day, when I was an amp, and it was, we'd always have the dinner at Montgomery Inn, with Todd and with the whole crew. And, it was probably one of my favorite dinners every year for those 4 years I got to play it, because I loved sitting and listening to all the stories of all the guys who came before me, and what, hearing about, like, Plummer, and playing against, Bob Harrison from Coldstream, and all these guys, in the 80s and in the 70s. And then it's like, for me to be able to pass along stories, of me in the 2000 teens when I was a teenager to juniors, it's like, that's the fun for me in the game. But I love the storytelling. I love just playing the game. I love just going out in the evenings and just, a little Twilight Nine, and just, playing with my dad, playing with friends. It's like, especially like, if you're a junior and, and your parents play the game, it's like, treasure the time spent with your parents, because it's like, that's, for my dad and I, it's been the greatest bond that we've ever had. And, truthfully, I hope I get to the PGA Tour one day. I'm still chasing. Obviously, I'm teaching, I'm playing. I'm constantly in pursuit of it. But I will tell you what, like, I would not trade anything that I've done over the last 20 plus years in the game for anything. And I mean everything from playing US kids, local tour, and I remember shooting 50 at Weatherwax when I was 8 years old and four putting like the last green to playing in the US Open, because every single experience you learn from and it builds you and it makes you a better player. And I watch too many kids, including myself, like looking back, that, get too hard on themselves, but then you just see people that don't enjoy it. And it's like, if you want to get there, you got to have fun. And that's truly the most important thing. And when I talk to these parents, they think that like the fun comes when you get better. The better comes when you start having more fun. I want kids smiling more. I want kids having more fun, and then keep practicing, but play with passion, play with joy, because life's just way too short. And I know that just sounds like the most cliche advice, but it's so true. And it pains me when I see these kids and these parents that just take the joy of life like away from the game. And it's like, at the same time, when I do see the kids having fun, it's like the coolest thing in the world, because you just know that they're going to go on and have success because they approach it from the right state of mind. So that's my biggest advice to juniors, is just have fun, because that's what I did. Like, everything good that happened came because I just had a blast. And I think people that watch me play like would say that Will is just a exuberant, smiling, passionate, energetic person. And I think that's what's allowed me to have success. So,
Well, Will, we love it. I think we need to have a part 2 here coming up.
I would love it. Let's do it.
We do.
All right. We'll schedule that. But for today's episode, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for giving us a little bit of insight into Shinnecock and what to expect on Long Island. And we hope everybody was able to enjoy this episode. So, Will, thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will.